I was really happy to see that the show opened with the Great Council, because that establishes the precedent for why women cannot inherit in Westeros, and that is so important. It was also a great nod to the books and the lore of A Song of Ice and Fire. One of my favourite bits was seeing King Jaehaerys, the first of his name, because he is such an important figure in the Targaryen history. So, wow, so happy they included him. Upon watching the show, I immediately noticed that the timelines were a little bit off. Some people are older than they are in the books, some people are younger. The Queen That Never was old at the Great Council, and then she's old again 10 years later. That's fine. I can live with a slightly messy timeline as long as they do everything else right. I also enjoyed how they added in how many years before the events of Game of Thrones the Dance of the Dragons occurred. I thought that was really important for non-book fans. Not that there's many of you out there. The opening scene with Rhaenyra and her dragon was pretty cool. Great CGI. However, the Dragon Keeper's armor was slightly underwhelming. I don't know why that bugged me, but it did. I also liked the fact that all the Targaryens speak Valyrian, because that comes as a shock in Game of Thrones, of course, and isn't overly referenced in A Song of Ice and Fire, but they obviously did, because it comes up later. Rhaenyra and Alicent's friendship was interesting. I wasn't expecting that because, of course, in the books, Alicent is quite a bit older than Rhaenyra, about 10 years, but it seemed to work. It was a good creative choice, I thought. It also brings to the fore how any young girl would feel if their best friend started dating their dad. You wouldn't like it. Completely understandable and relatable. I also liked how they tied in Alicent's history with Jaehaerys, but they simply moved it on to Viserys. Alicent, of course, being a comfort to Jaehaerys in later life, and reading to him, which is just mimicked with what she did with Viserys. I liked it. Smart choice. Somebody read the books, or wrote them, Mr. George R.R. Martin. I also enjoyed a lot of the quotes from the books about the bronze bitch, and how men in the Vale fuck sheep because the sheep are prettier than their women. It made me laugh, and I'm glad they included those lines. The sets for House of the Dragon Season 1 and the budget is obviously so much higher than it was for the original A Game of Thrones series, and I really liked it. The jousting scenes were spectacular. Compared to the joust in Season 1 of Game of Thrones, this joust blew it out of the water. The costumes, the scale of it. Also, the way they have done King's Landing, like 170 years before we see it, where it's slightly grubbier, slightly smaller, slightly dirtier, the streets aren't cobbled. I liked it. Somebody's really paying attention to detail, and somebody like me appreciates that. Talking about details, did anybody else see King Viserys holding cat's paw, or was that just me and my happy imagination? Of course, we cannot talk about the first episode of House of the Dragon without mentioning that absolutely brutal C-section scene. Oh my god, my friend had to fast forward through it. I thought I was going to be sick. I had to pause it actually and take a moment. That was really bad, really bad. That's not in the books, guys. But it worked. It was so traumatic that it worked. Of course, it was completely horrific. Per Emma Aaron. She did not deserve that. She was a nice woman. And it just takes you back to the medieval period and when decisions like that had to be made. Fuck the maesters, though. And fuck King Viserys for doing that to his wife. She was lovely. Of course, then we move on to them all talking about the succession, which of course in the book was already established because Rhaenyra was always the heir until there was going to be a boy born, and Daemon was just messing about, hoping it would be him, hoping he'd get married to his niece because that was the Targaryen way. So that was a bit uncalled for, I thought. They drew it out, but I see why. If you haven't read the books, you don't get it. The bit where Viserys is telling Rhaenyra about Aegon and his dream about the others and the never-ending winter was a bit meh. I mean, it wasn't needed. I think they only put it in there for the TV show fans because none of us book fans really care about that. Of course, you have all the stuff with Daenerys the Dreamer, but who really cares? We're here to see dragons and dragons fight. I also thought it was odd that Viserys, who rode Balerion the Black Dread and was the last king to ever ride Balerion, even though he took one trip and we're looking at Balerion's skull, it was not mentioned. That was a missed opportunity, guys. You know what was not a missed opportunity? Seeing Daemon Targaryen's butt. And it wasn't a very nice butt. And now all I can think about is the fact I've seen Doctor Who's butt. Too much, guys. There's also a little bit much when we've seen the severed penis. You know what I'm talking about. Like, I can deal with severed hams all day long and executions. But genital mutilation is another level of, I don't want to watch this while I eat dinner. Criston Cole turns up, beats the living hell out of Daemon Targaryen with a Morning Star, and that's about it. And he's Dornish, so what? Kinda sexy. We know where it all goes. I'm gonna leave it there. But I am really excited for the next episode. So far, so good. A bit gruesome, a bit over the top, a lot of sex. Brothel scenes were good. I like a brothel scene. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I want more dragons. I want more intrigue. I want more counselors squabbling. And I want to see the Starks, like the actual Starks. We got a glimpse of a Stark at the end when they're all swearing fealty. But I could definitely go for seeing more. House of the Dragon, episode 2. My thoughts. After the first episode, I was super excited to see where this was going to go. And after watching the trailer, I was expecting a lot of stepstones fighting. I don't know why, but I just was, and I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get it this episode, but I know it is definitely coming in episode 3. And I also want to say, I don't think I noticed in the first episode how beautiful the opening credits are. They really stand out. It's a good ode to the first, Game of Thrones of its kind, George R. R. Martin show, and it kind of adds to it with the blood and the trickling, and it just looks really beautiful. I was not expecting the egg stealing to happen straight away. I was also not expecting the little twist where his girlfriend, whore, whatever you want to call her, wasn't actually pregnant. That was interesting. I did like Rhaenyra turning up on her dragon to get the egg back, and I liked the bit where they put the egg on the hot coals. I thought that was brilliant, because that ties into Dany keeping the eggs warm, and I'm glad they are including the bits where you put dragon eggs in babies' cradles. I think it's all really important, and it all adds to the lore of A Song of Ice and Fire. I really feel pity for the poor little Lady Laena. She's just a kid, and when she's walking in the garden with the king, it looks like a little girl walking around with her grandfather. It's just horrible. I didn't like it. And she was so sweet when she was asking him all about the Black Dread. I thought that was really cute. And I know I complained last episode they didn't bring that up. So I was happy this time they did. And it was just adorable. And I felt so bad for her when she was like, oh, my mom says I don't have to bed you until I'm 14. And I was like, oh, put her away. Put her back in school. Like, she needs to go back to school. Leave her alone. She's lovely. I was very surprised there was no talk about Rhaenyra's wedding. I thought that would come up before the king's remarriage, but I guess not. I was also wanting a little bit more flirting between Rhaenyra and Criston Cole. We know it's coming at some point, we just need to know when. But will they actually include it, or will they make a Criston Cole, Alicent Hightower love triangle / spurned Rhaenyra? Who knows? Also, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the sea snake, though he is very, very ambitious. I was not expecting his ambition to be so blatant, but I suppose they need somebody to oppose Otto Hightower because he is so blatantly ambitious in this show that they need somebody. Well, he's not blatant, it's like behind the scenes. The king isn't seeing that he's so blatant. He's more hidden about it. So they obviously need somebody to be very blatant and pushy, which is going to be the sea snake. So I want to see how that continues to play out. The Queen That Never Was talking to Rhaena about how the Lords of the Seven Kingdom will not accept her was sad. I really like the Queen Who Never Was. And where is her dragon? I want to see her dragon right now, because I think that's really important. Because the Queen That Never Was has the most epic death later on, that if they don't show her dragon, it's kind of like, well, is that going to happen? Are they going to give that to someone else? I hope not, because she is a badass character in the books, and personally one of my favorites. This episode was a bit of setup, a bit of filler, I won't lie. Not as exciting as the first episode by any means, but it has to go somewhere. I did enjoy all the stuff with the crab feeder and all those little CGI crabs, if they were CGI, going in and out of the skulls and like eating people alive. Kind of put me off seafood a bit, but not too much. I'm still going to eat prawns. The kind of shock at the end where the king says he's going to marry Alicent Hightower wasn't a shock, because it's very obvious it's going to happen. I think even if you haven't read the books, you know that's coming. But the pain on Rhaenyra's face, that was really good. That was some really good acting. You know, she felt so betrayed and you could see it. I liked it. I'm looking forward to episode 3 a lot more, because I think we're going to get some big battle scenes, which I love, especially with the dragons. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I also want to see some stuff about the free cities. I do think it was an odd choice to give the crab feeder a mask. He looks a lot like the Sons of the Harpy in Game of Thrones, and I just think it's weird. Are they trying to tie these two in together? Like, these are the bad guys, Sons of the Harpy, crab feeder people. I don't know, I'm not getting it. I thought they should have just made him like classic pirate. Would have made more sense. And this is my House of the Dragon review for episode 5 and a little catch up for episode 3 and 4, because I was away in Spain for 10 days, so I caught up on episode 3 and 4 together, and even though I didn't really see any spoilers, I knew there was loads of hype. I really enjoyed the royal hunt. I thought Rhaenyra and Criston Cole was a little bit of overkill, but I had real Robert fighting the boar vibes, and it just shows how dangerous a boar can be. Rhaenyra, however, has turned into a spoilt brat. This is something I was not expecting. I thought I would be Team Rhaenyra all the way, but I am Team Alicent. She is responsible, reliable, understanding, and Rhaenyra is just a spoilt princess with a dragon. Daemon is kicking ass in the stepstones and taking names, and I really enjoyed the Laenor Valerian dragon riding scene. I'm waiting for his mum to ride a dragon though. And of course the House Lannister boys wanting to bang Rhaenyra. Oh, so House Lannister. That kind of sums up my thoughts about episode 3. Moving along to episode 4, I really enjoyed this episode, more than episode 3 actually. There was too much sex in that pleasure den for anybody to cope with, but I loved all the intrigue. I never thought Criston Cole actually had sex with Rhaenyra. I thought he said no to her and didn't sully his white cloak, so I was immediately interested to see where this would go and how he would turn from Team Rhaenyra to Team Alicent and that process. One of my favourite parts of this episode was the little Blackwood kid killing that Bracken guy. I just loved that, and I cannot wait to meet his sister. Is it Betha Blackwood? She's gonna be bitchin'. All my friends who are watching this show, including my boyfriend, love Daemon Targaryen, but I think he's just an ass. I mean, leaving Rhaenyra in that brothel was not cool, man. Especially getting her all horny and then just backing out. Like, don't do that. Also, everyone's shipping them all over the place, but you can't take Jaime and Cersei. Y'all weird when it comes to incest. But the introduction of the White Worm, I can't wait to see her and her little birds. Mistress of Whisperers. But the Alicent and Rhaenyra relationship is progressing in a really weird way, and I'm enjoying that dynamic, that shifting dynamic, and how Alicent just can't trust Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra keeps acting out. It's a good dynamic, but now I'm worried that I'm not going to enjoy it when the actors change because I become very attached to both of them. I will end talking about episode 4 by saying, where is Mushroom? I want Mushroom. I keep seeing extras in the background and thinking, ooh, this could be Mushroom, and it's not, and it disappoints me every time. Moving on to this week's episode 5 of House of the Dragon. This was a slow burning episode, but man, were there fireworks at the end with that half-scene fight climax. You don't know how it started, you just know what happened. Everybody is looking, it's like reading one of the books. I really liked it. I am still not 100% sure I like Christian Cole, but I understand that he values his honor extremely highly because he has always been poor, and he feels like Rhaenyra stole his honor from him, the only thing of value he ever actually possessed. And I'm really enjoying this new Alicent Christian Cole dynamic. I think it has real legs. However, Christian Cole was obviously not well schooled because he started talking when Alicent had really nothing at all no evidence, nothing to back it up. He started talking, dumb boy. Also, the longer this series goes on for, the more I love Alicent Hightower. Her green dress entry was so powerful. However, her dress did look a bit like Princess Fiona's dress from Shrek, so that ruined it slightly for me, but overall it was good. I think that Alicent Hightower and Christian Cole are going to have a very old school courtly love dynamic where he will love her from afar and never touch her because she is pure and honourable and everything a queen should be. I really enjoyed what we got to see of Rhea of Runestone, the bronze bitch. She had angry Arya vibes written all over her, but Daemon should not have done her like that. I really dislike Daemon at this point. Every episode just makes him worse. Why does everyone like him? I don't get it. The dance scene near the end of the episode with everyone dancing around yelling "hey" at the top of their voices made me happy. I want to learn that dance and do it. I do want more dragons though. I don't think we're getting enough dragons for a show called House of the Dragon. Maybe later in the series we'll get some. And I really want to see Princess Rhaenys on her dragon. That is all I want, guys. I've been saying this since episode 1. Princess Rhaenys on a dragon. I know in the next episode they are aging Alicent and Rhaenyra up, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I love the characters as they are. I think we could have had a whole season with those characters before we aged them up and have them have their kids young, and then in season 2 we aged them up. New cast, new season. I'm not sure how I feel about it. You'll know more next week. And I just feel so sorry for poor King Viserys. All he wants to do is play with his Legos and pump his sugar baby, and no one will leave him alone. Please, somebody give that man some peace. Also, Lemongate. I loved Lemongate. I yelled at the TV when he was talking about those plants. Is it Laris Strong? That was brilliant. I'm so glad somebody said that. And I know that Preston Jacobs and stuff have been going on about it, but I like it. I like it a lot, and I don't care why they put it in. I'm just happy they did. I am also adoring all the House of the Dragon memes. As you can probably see, I've been inserting them here in this video, so let me know what your favorite meme was. Today we are talking about episode 6 of House of the Dragon. I know I am super late getting these reviews out, but I do have a life outside making YouTube videos, but only barely. This episode was called The Princess and the Queen, and I'm actually really enjoying the aging up. Though I was quite attached to the other younger actresses. Maybe we'll get some flashback scenes at some point, but the new actresses are brilliant. Somebody really did their research, getting them to look similar and the appropriate amount of age. Talking about great actors to choose, why did the showrunners make Alicent's kids, Aegon and Aemond, look so weird? They're obviously trying to make the Greens the bad guys, I get that, and Aegon and Aemond are obviously meant to be the baddies, even though everything's meant to be grey, But why did you have to make them look like albino mice? I'm not loving it, especially when all of the strong kids are so cute. All of Rhaenyra's children look adorable, and then poor Alicent's children look like white rabbits. Not good. Laenor Velaryon is very one note. I can't wait for him to die, but the new actor is quite sexy. Lady Laena's death was cool, with her getting burnt to death by her own dragon because she couldn't bring a baby into the world. Sad and not true to the books, but who cares? It was a really cool scene. I feel incredibly sad for Laena's kids though, because Daemon is obviously ignoring the child that doesn't have a dragon and loving Baela who does, and that just hurts my heart a little. Will everyone stop liking Daemon? He's a dick. There was not enough Alicent and Christian Cole in this episode, and I think skipping forward about 10 years was good in some respects, but they could have maybe done 5 years one episode and another 5 years the next. You would have seen the tension building as Rhaenyra brought more and more illegitimate children into the world, and Viserys digging himself this hole and ignoring the fact that his grandchildren are illegitimate and don't have silver hair because he just wants a happy family. Poor old King Viserys, I have a real soft spot for him and his Legos. Larys Strong killing his entire family was very out of left field. There was no build-up. We never got to see the Strong family interact together and see their dynamic, so it didn't really feel worthwhile. It would have been more dramatic if we'd seen them as a family beforehand and perhaps seen Larys as the doting son and then this mad turnabout. However, I did love how Alicent had her Henry II moment. Who will rid me of this turbulent hand? And then Larys Strong's like, I will. I enjoyed that. On the topic of the Strong family, Harrenhal looked really small when it was in the distance, all CGI'd. The set once we got there looked great, but the CGI from a distance just made it look tiny. I didn't like that. Just me quibbling over small details. Also, more dragon pig, please. That made me really happy. I don't know why, it just did. It was so cute and funny and the sort of things my nephews would do to each other, so I liked it. It is, of course, building the tension between Alicent's kids and Rhaenyra's kids. So especially with Aemond, you can see where that animosity towards the Black clan is going to come from. Also, where is the sea snake? He should be on the small council again. I'm kind of annoyed he's not in it, and he would be defending the stepstones. That whole thing about the stepstones and the triarchy, of course the sea snake would be defending them. They just seem to have forgotten about him this episode, and it kind of annoyed me. There was lots of birth this episode, and I'm glad we're getting a very female-centric story, because that's something that's forgotten normally in these period pieces or in any sort of mystical show. Normally women are the side characters, the love interest. But this was good. However, small quibble, you showed Rhaenyra's birth. I think they should have shown one of Alicent's births. Maybe the first one. Maybe it was difficult. Maybe, she struggled with it. Especially, obviously, not being overly in love with the child's father. That would have been good. I also really liked seeing Helena, the dreamer, the little princess, playing with her millipede. I hate millipedes. Really hate them. But it was a cute scene, and I liked how she's obviously prophetic, and you see that. Well, if you're paying attention, you see that, and if you've read the books, you're like, this makes sense. I really want her to get a dragon. Let her get Dreamfire. That'll make me happy, and I cannot wait to see how she copes with blood and cheese, because that is going to be some dramatic shit. The next episode, I really want to see Aegon and Helena's wedding. I think that'll be really cute because, of course, they have children before Viserys dies in the books. I think they have 3 children. They have 2 boys and a girl. So that better happen. I want to see that. Nice big wedding scene, because we kind of got a bit of a wedding for Rhaenyra, but it was more of a feast. I want a proper wedding in, a set, but with all the incense and all of it. And I also want lovely Rhaenyra to be annoyed about it, because of course she offered Jace, her oldest son, to Helena in marriage. And I think that would be a good dynamic, and that might be where Aemond's gonna lose his eye. Just sticking that out there. Might be good. Also, did anyone else catch that Rhaenyra's third child is called Joffrey? Because that made me giggle. Right now, I am completely Team Alicent. I didn't think I would be. I thought I'd be Team Rhaenyra all the way when I started with this program, but I'm Team Alicent. I mean, she got a hard deal. She was married off young to an old man who she didn't overly love, and she has to watch her stepdaughter, who was rude to her as soon as she married her dad, go around just hoeing. And she's jealous and she's annoyed and she's bitter and she's like, why is it one rule for her and a different rule for me? And she's worried about her children and how Rhaenyra might treat her children because she's never been overly warm to them when she takes the throne. So I'm Team Alicent here. Like, I didn't think I would be, but I am. And I can't wait to see how it all goes down. Because, of course, she outlives the Dance of the Dragons and just wanders around the Red Keep being mad and annoyed. And by mad, I mean actually crazy. This is the end of my review of episode 6 of House of the Dragon. So episode 7, and what an episode! It was amazing. I don't know what was better. Aemond getting Vhagar, Alicent and Rhaenyra fighting, or the kids fighting. Oh my god, it just took my breath away. Aemond getting Vhagar was definitely my favourite bit. It actually gave me chills when he was flying. Like, I was like, oh my god, I'd love to do that. And my boyfriend doesn't know the story, and he was all like, he's gonna get eaten. And then once he was on Vhagar's back, he was like, Aemond's gonna fall off. I know he's going to fall off. So he was happy because he likes Aemond. He's like, he's gonna be the new Daemon, he's gonna be a badass. And I didn't tell him the truth because, of course, he is going to be the new Daemon and be badass. The CGI in that flight scene was amazing. I think it was the best dragon scene we've ever had from Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire or House of the Dragon. It was so good. So I'm looking forward to what they do when the dragons fight. And I'm so glad Aemond proved himself. No more dragon pig for him. Alicent's loss of control was my second favourite bit of this episode. She's right. Why is it one rule for her and every other woman in the kingdom and a double standard for Rhaenyra? The more I watch it, the more I side with Alicent. And I wasn't expecting that at all. I'm also really enjoying Alicent and her father Otto's relationship. Their plotting was amazing. I love how proud he was of her and how he showed her, saying that she had the tenacity to actually win the Game of Thrones. I know everyone on the internet is hating Alicent at the moment and comparing her to Cersei. The memes are rife. But I have a massive poster of Cersei in my house. I love Cersei. And I actually think at this point I prefer Alicent. She's smarter than Cersei. And I think she's probably a better mother. And she isn't committing incest. I'll just apologise if you keep hearing that weird noise in the background. It's the pipes in my house. I have the heating on because it's winter. And I live in a really old house. Getting around to the kids' fight scene. If you strike a member of the royal family, you will lose the hand that did the striking. This is established law in A Song of Ice and Fire. You see it in Game of Thrones, you see it in Dunk and Egg, you see it in Fire and Blood. It's a thing. But the judgment was so season 1 Game of Thrones, with all the kids just yelling at each other. And I thought Alicent had way more right to be pissed off than Cersei ever did. Joffrey just got some scars. Alicent's son lost an eye. Could you imagine if your child lost an eye at the hands of his nephew? You'd be pretty angry. And maybe she was uncalled for, saying, let's take his eye. But in the spur of the moment, feeling so unjustly wronged, I get it. One thing I did really enjoy was how Aegon protected his mother by saying that everybody could just see that Rhaenyra's kids were strongs and bastards. That was good. You can see his family loyalty already coming through towards his mother. The kids' fight scene was really realistic. Kids will be kids. And I was happy they included Bella and her sister in the fight because they're not included in the books. And it adds to the depth of loathing between all the family members. Also, I loved the callback to Dragon Pig. I'm enjoying Aegon as well. He's just a lech and a lad. He's just a young guy who wants to have lots of sex and get drunk. And his betrothal to his sister was good. But I don't understand why they made his sister so weird. I guess, she's dreaming, she's telling the future, whatever. But she's not like that in the book. I mean, she's quiet and retiring, but she's not that weird. I can't wait to see how this is going to play out with Blood and Cheese, with Helaena having to choose between her children, because I can't see that happening with the Helaena we have at the moment. Maybe Alicent will step in and take that role, because the Helaena we have at the moment seems unaware of what's going on around her. Also, the actor playing Aegon looks like an albino version of Finn Wolfhard, you know, Mike from Stranger Things. They're pretty much identical. I'm gonna get some photos up and show you. I'm also enjoying Criston Cole and Alicent's relationship as they're getting closer and she's becoming more reliant on him, and of course reliant on Larys Strong. But when it comes to Criston Cole, I just want them to have sex. I just want Viserys to die and Alicent to fall into his arms and them to be happy together, because she deserves to be happy. I don't care about Criston Cole, but she has been married to that old man since she was like 16. She deserves to be happy and to have sex with someone hot. I'm kind of pissed off that Laenor Velaryon is alive and they didn't kill him, because if they'd killed him, it would have been super Game of Thrones, super cutting edge, super badass of them, and we will do anything to win the Iron Throne and cement our alliance as Targaryens. But no, they let him get away. And I'm annoyed at that because he, as a character, has absolutely no personality apart from being Rhaenyra's husband. And you know, if you read the book, that one of Rhaenyra's children later on goes missing, they think he's dead, and you just know that it's going to be Laenor turning up with the sun. I thought the episode ended strong with Rhaenyra marrying Daemon. I liked their wedding scene, the way they cut their hands and they cut their lips. I'm liking that Targaryen lore that we're seeing, and it was a good ending. Can't wait to watch the next episode, episode 8. And I enjoyed this episode. Not as much as episode 7, but one thing that really stood out was Rhaella and Baela. Those two girls are so beautiful. They should be models, and that silver hair. I'm loving it. I really loved all the 7-pointed stars in the Red Keep, showing that the Hightowers have the faith on side. Whether that is because the strong children are legitimate, or because of the Targaryen incest, who knows and who cares? I love the fact it's leaning into the Green Hand theory that the Hightowers and the Faith have always conspired together to bring down the Targaryens. Criston Cole and his Morning Star are completely badass. That scene with him fighting? That boy can move. Also, Aemond One-Eye is so much better aged up. I want to make #BetterDaemon a thing. My friends are saying he looks like some evil cartoon pirate or an evil ski instructor, but I'm really loving Aemond One-Eye. I want more of him all season long, even though that's only 2 more episodes. Poor King Viserys I this episode. He looks like he has leprosy, the unfortunate man. His grand entrance, though, was amazing. I got chills and his struggle felt so real, but the mask gave me real Leper King of Jerusalem vibes from Kingdom of Heaven. I know that's a really bad movie, but I think they drew inspiration from that for the mask. Just saying. And the bit where Daemon steps up to help Viserys up the steps to the Iron Throne, my boyfriend was like, oh my god, brothers helping brothers. I feel really sorry here for Rhaenyra's children, especially Jace and Lucerys. It's not their fault their mum's a hoe and they're illegitimate. I don't feel sorry for Rhaenyra though, because this is a mess of her own making. She was brought up in this society. What did she really expect when she had illegitimate children and she was the heir to the throne? Remember how she reacted when her uncle at the time, Daemon, gave his paramour a dragon's egg? Did she not expect a similar repercussion for herself? Prince Daemon taking Vaemon Velaryon's head was shocking. I was not expecting that. A good add-on that was not in the book. The family dinner scene following the court scene brought a tear to my eye. Viserys finally got his family together, and I'm glad everything disintegrated after he left. He deserved to die happy, thinking his family were all reunited. I'm really happy we got to see more of Princess Helaena this episode. I was quite worried she was going to be sidetracked, but her speech about being married was so funny. He mostly ignores you, except sometimes when he's drunk. Loved it. However, I would have liked to have seen Helaena and Aegon's children because we know they are very important later on. We got to see Rhaenyra's younger children with Daemon. Just saying. As soon as the dinner started, I was waiting for Aemond to start his speech about those lovely strong boys, and the anticipation kept growing and growing. Oh, and the payoff was brilliant. It was so well done. I thought it was nice afterwards when you seen Alicent and Rhaenyra trying to make up and build bridges. I thought that was very human and something that would actually happen. They're both trying, and you have to love them for trying. However, there were no dragons this episode. I am still holding a grudge that they have not given Princess Rhaenys a dragon, and Princess Helaena, who will soon become Queen Helaena, sorry for the spoiler, has a dragon as well. I want to see them. Also, the show is going out of its way to paint Aegon in a negative light. He seems like an entitled prick, and I'm getting a bit sick of it. The rape confession scene was literally just to make the Greens look bad, especially Alicent. And has anybody else noticed that Alicent's costume this episode is exactly the same as Cersei's costume from the final season of Game of Thrones? I'm sure that's not a coincidence to the showrunners. Poor drugged Viserys, who was in pain and confused Alicent for Rhaenyra and accidentally started a war, but the king is dead, long live the king. Episode 9, the Green Council episode. And it strayed away from the books. It was dramatic and good, but not book accurate, so I do have some quibbles. The episode can be summed up as hangover, foot porn, epic dragon, in that order. The scene where Criston Cole killed Lord Beesbury was really good. It was different from what happened in the book, but it was still dramatic enough to be enjoyable. I did love the Lannister plotting as well. It seemed very Lannister-esque to me. However, I don't feel Aemond would have been so openly covetous of the crown when his brother was made king. However, I did really enjoy watching Aemond and Criston Cole walk around King's Landing looking for Aegon, getting confused by all the whores. Also, Alicent really needs to listen to her dad. She is being way too sentimental about Rhaenyra. She doesn't seem to understand that Rhaenyra will have to kill her children because they are a threat to her throne. And for some reason, I don't think Rhaenyra would reciprocate the affection. Also, who else loved Paul Clayton in this episode? I am a massive Peep Show fan, so shout out to Dobby Club is going here. Also, this episode we get to see the White Worm again, and I feel she should be a little bit more self-serving. I am not loving this Varys vibe from the show she seems to be cultivating here. Be self-seeking, woman. That is what we all want to see. You can cut the sexual tension between Alicent and Criston Cole with a knife, but I really did not see the Lord Larys Strong clubfoot fetish thing coming into play. Is it not slightly cruel of the writers to make the guy with the club foot fancy people's feet? Also, Alicent was so uncomfortable. It all seemed quite unnatural and came out of nowhere. There was no build-up with him maybe stealing her shoes or looking at her feet, getting a POV of his eye line or anything. It came out of nowhere. I didn't like it. It felt unnatural and forced, and as if the people writing the show really want you to know that the Greens are the bad guys. I know people out there are equating it to Tywin and his whores, but I never went in for that theory anyway, so I don't really care. Aegon II waking up with the hangover from hell in a sept, finding out he's king. Now that is a hangover nobody wants to have, and I actually feel quite sorry for him. They are making him out to be far more negative in the TV show than the books, but in the books he tests that he never wanted the crown, he wanted his sister Rhaenyra to have it. Also, I feel sad for him for the fact that his father didn't like him. Moving on to the highlight of this episode, Rhaenys's escape from King's Landing. Even though it wasn't in the books, it was highly dramatic and fun viewing, but I don't overly enjoy it because it was put in just for dramatic effect and didn't build any plot at all. And wouldn't Rhaenys just Dracarys the hell out of the entire Green faction while she was staring at them? I didn't get that. But one thing we definitely do know now is Queen Helena is prophetic. There is a beast beneath the boards. Aegon's drip for the coronation was on point. I loved the black on black outfit. I go in for that quite a bit. I felt like Alicent was far more human this episode than we have seen her so far, but I am still Team Green all the way. However, I am excited for the big Black Council finale to see how they roll with it. There better be some dragon fighting, that is all I can say. I am very happy though that they finally gave Rhaenys her dragon. I have been bitching about that all season, and they finally did it, and they did it in a great way, so I'm happy about that, even if it wasn't book accurate. All I can say is they better give her her epic death. Episode 10, also known as the grand finale of Season 1, and it was not as dramatic as I hoped it would be, but it was good. However, some of the episode was a little bit meh. Don't get me wrong, Arrax and Vhagar fighting was very good. Per Arrax, he was such a pretty dragon. As for Lucerys, I knew it was coming, so I didn't get attached in the first place. The whole scene was interesting. I found it intriguing because it seemed as if Vhagar was acting of his own accord, and maybe so was Arrax. And now I am questioning whether dragons tend to act on their riders' baser instincts. I think I will make a video about this later on in the month. Also, it would explain Daenerys and Drogon's actions in the finale of Game of Thrones. It also leads into the warging theory, and if wargs aren't properly trained, the animal can take control. Also, there was quite a lot of symbolism this episode. I thought the fact that Rhaenyra was crowned with her father's crown instead of the conqueror's crown was a great nod to how people perceive her. And by people, of course, I mean the small folk of Westeros. Otto Hightower coming to see Rhaenyra at Dragonstone was good, but not book accurate, so for me it fell a little flat. I think it would have worked better if the scene had been Alicent coming to explain to Rhaenyra Viserys' last words, and Rhaenyra trying to explain the prophecy, and neither of them listening to each other fully. I feel it would have been more realistic, as people do talk over each other when they argue. Also, if you like Aemond Targaryen, after this episode, screw you. The guy killed his first wife and then strangled his second wife. Not just his wife, his queen, after she gave birth to their stillborn baby, and he is obviously so jealous of her. I love a good villain, but the only reason he is a villain is because he is jealous. That is not good plot writing. He is simply violent for the sake of being violent. Rhaenyra's birth scene was hard to watch, especially while I was trying to eat a bowl of soup, but I liked it. However, I think the baby should have been more deformed. It should have had wings and a tail, not just an eyeless blob. I think that would have proven that incest doesn't always work in the Targaryens' favour, and it would have been a callback to Dany's deformed baby at the end of Season 1. Also, I was expecting for Rhaenyra to lament the fact that this was her only daughter and that the Greens had killed her by making her go into labour early. However, that was never brought up. I kept waiting for that line. It's in the book. The painted table looked way cooler in House of the Dragon than it ever did in Game of Thrones. I don't know if that's because they lit it up or what, but definitely set design gets 10 out of 10 in my book. The sea snake is back, and he just talks a lot and doesn't really do anything so far. I really want to see him lay down the law, tell his wife what to do, march around his boats, and we haven't seen any of that. We haven't heard anything about his journeys to the other side of the world and how he made the Valerians one of the richest houses in Westeros through trade. All of these things would prove what a good commander of men he is, but they're not being brought up. Rhaenyra was very cool, calm, and collected this episode, so I hope she goes batshit crazy at the beginning of season 2, like she does in the book after her son Lucerys is killed. Also, I have a prediction here. Princess Rhaenys is going to die in the first episode of season 2, 100%. They're going to want to reel us back into the series with a big dragon fight and a main character dying. I can't see them holding out until the end of the series to do this. They could do it mid-season and take a break, but I think they'll do it in the first episode. Also, I enjoyed the Stark and Baratheon name dropping here, and getting to see the Lord of Storm's End in his big chair being all, "I am Robert." Prince Daemon not knowing about the prophecy involving the Song of Ice and Fire was kind of obvious. I was surprised how shocked Rhaenyra was at this. The guy doesn't know anything. He's never probably read a book. He's just annoying. I could 100% see Daemon from the books reading and being interested in history, but TV show Daemon doesn't strike me as somebody who loves to read. I can't wait for Blood and Cheese and all of that to go down and everyone to see how right I have been about Daemon this whole time. He's a dick. Love Aemond One Eye or not, his glowing missing eye was very cool. For those of you who don't know, he shoved a sapphire into his eye after the eye was having to be removed because, of course, it was slashed across with a knife. I hope that glowing represents magic later on in the series because we all know he gets involved in that. Overall, I think I preferred episode 9 to episode 10 of House of the Dragon. The big finale was slightly anticlimactic for me, apart from the dragon scene at the end, Vhagar and the Greens for life. And my overall thoughts. I know I reviewed every episode as it came out, but I'm going to group them all together and give this season my recommendation out of 10. I found the season slow to build, but I did enjoy every episode. However, some episodes I enjoyed much more than others. Episode 9 was undoubtedly my favorite. There were so many dramatic birth scenes this series. I am all for more rounded female story arcs, but I feel like they should have given Alicent a birth scene. It would have rounded out her character, and I was very disappointed not to have a lizard baby turn up in the final episode. But back to Alicent and her lack of birth scene. It would have made the viewer empathize more with her love for her children. Overall, I feel like the Greens were portrayed in this series as textbook villains, which didn't quite fit George R.R. Martin's writing style. I was surprised by how much I liked Alicent and how determined and her perseverance really shone through for me, and I was surprised by how much Rhaenyra rubbed me the wrong way. She came off as very entitled, somebody born with a golden spoon in her mouth who didn't know how to use it, whereas Alicent has had to fight and strive and suffer through everything that has been inflicted on her. And by inflicted, I do mean Viserys and his falling off dick. At the beginning of the series, I didn't really warm to Daemon. I could only see Matt Smith as Prince Philip, but as the series progressed, I did enjoy his character, but I think they should have made him slightly more manic. I thought the aging up was done really well, but I would have held out personally for one more episode with the younger cast and included a scene with young Alicent giving birth. It would have shown how much he went through, and so young. Paddy Considine was Oscar-worthy in his final episode, but everyone already knows that, so all I'm going to say is there should have been more Legos in the last episode. Rhaenyra should have found his Legos at Dragonstone or something to that effect. On to the meat of the situation. There were dragons this season, but I felt like we were getting teased by them, and that there will be much more dragon fighting in the next season. Talking about dragons, undoubtedly my favourite dragon to see was Vhagar. But why was there not a scene where Aemond forced the sapphire into his eye socket? I would have paid money to see that. The acting involved, and perhaps his family's reaction when he walked out with a sapphire crammed into his gone eye socket would have been amazing. Why did they not include that? Alicent's reaction to her son mutilating himself would have been priceless. HBO seem to be packing as much sex as they possibly can into every episode. I mean, I love Mushroom and his history, but they are sticking far too much to the Mushroom history script. Veer off, please. Titties are good, but I don't need them all the time. Now, Rhaenyra and Criston Cole, seeing as we're talking about Mushroom's history, I did not expect them to have had sex, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good twist. I didn't see it coming. I thought they would stick more to, oh, she wanted him, he said no. But they should have been given more growth as a couple before their relationship broke down. We only got to see them really together once. They should have stretched it out. They should have hooked up when they were fighting that boar. I would have paid to see that as well. Criston Cole in general needs a bit more of a backstory. He needs a family he gave up to take the White Cloak, or something. Otherwise he is falling a bit flat and he's like Jaime Lannister without the incest. So dull. The A Song of Ice and Fire theory that Aegon the Conqueror foresaw the long night in a vision, and that is why he conquered the Seven Kingdoms and why a Targaryen must be on the throne, made sense to me. I know a lot of people in the community hated it, but I thought it was good. However, it should have been brought in the prologue when we seen the Great Council at Harrenhal with Jaehaerys. It would have made more sense then, and it would have been a running theme. There should have been more Corlys Velaryon in this series. He disappears for 2 or 3 episodes and then pops up again. He is so important. We need more scenes with him, more dialogue. We also, very importantly, need to see his mistress. Where is she, and when is she going to pop up? We need that mouse in the house. As for Aegon II, he is just a dumb drunk, and I do not like his aged up actor. I think the first guy should have stuck around. He looks so much like Aemond, the new improved Aemond. They could have aged him up somehow. He's just got no substance. He's like a rich kid, living off his trust fund. Nobody wants to watch that. You can't root for him. One thing HBO did right, though, was making Queen Helena prophetic. I loved it. It was a great add-on. I crave scenes with her every episode now. I'm like, oh, what's she going to say? What does it mean? Can I figure it out? And I think a lot of people agree with that sentiment. Also, the actress is so pretty, and I feel sorry for her married to that drunk-ass Aegon II. But back to my main complaint about this series. We had so many birth scenes, and yet we did not have a single birth scene involving Helena and her mother Alicent, and we didn't get Helena and Aegon's wedding. That should have been included. It's very important. Their children are very important moving forward in the story, so emphasis should have been put on them. However, we have got to the meat. My biggest complaint about House of the Dragon Season 1, and it's enormous. Where is Alicent and Viserys' third son, Daeron Targaryen? He is incredibly important when it comes to wrapping up the Dance of the Dragons story arc. Where is he? Why did they choose to leave him out? Are they going to replace him with some annoying person? I really hope not. I really hope we don't get a Lucerys Velaryon situation where he turns up and takes the place of what Daeron should do later in the story. Ugh. Why did you leave out a character? I know he disappears for a bit and then he turns up again, but what he just does when he disappears is so important. So, I'm mad at you, HBO. I really hope we do not get a Sansa replacing Jane Pole situation like we did in Game of Thrones, because I cannot live through that again. It pained me. Anywho, I give this series 7 out of 10. It was okay, but they turned away from the books in some major ways which means I cannot rank it higher. There were shocking moments, and I enjoyed all of them. The cast have been cast brilliantly. That is all I can say. Everyone looks the part, apart from Matt Smith, kinda, but that's a personal thing. Remember to subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with more House of the Dragon videos. I have theory videos about the next season, and I have got some other stuff up my sleeve that's going to be very exciting, like did Jaehaerys cause the Dance of the Dragons? So like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at Lady Jessica Riddell. Until next time, winter is coming. Bye!